Hi my dear children, in today's class we are going to discuss about the Louis de Broglie, as you say, but it is a wrong pronunciation. It has to be de Broglie. De Broglie hypothesis. De Broglie hypothesis is the topic for our discussion today. Okay, so in the previous videos we have seen regarding the dual nature of radiation. So we have seen the dual nature of radiation in previous videos. In this video, what we are going to see is regarding the dual nature of matter. Then you may be asking the question, sir, what do you mean with the dual nature of matter? Okay, there is no problem with the particle nature, right? So when it comes to matter, we know that there is particle nature, right? Question: how is wave nature possible for matter? How matter can show wave nature? We have not seen a wave with matter so far at all. How is it possible? That might be the question. That now, what I'm saying, that may be something that disturbs you now. The same question disturbed Louis Victor de Broglie also, and he was a brave person because he put forward a brave hypothesis in 1924. A brave hypothesis. Brave hypothesis. So always success goes with the brave persons. De Broglie was a brave person and his hypothesis became successful, and that's the reason why we are studying about it now. He was a brave person. Right? Always success associated with the brave. So in 1924, de Broglie proposed a brave hypothesis about the matter waves. What provoked him to say so? If radiation can have this dual nature, why can't it be for matter? That's a question he asked. If radiation has got a dual nature, then the question really comes, why can't it be for matter? I was just confirming the date only. So why can't it be for matter? That's a question to be answered. If radiation can have dual nature, right? Yes. Think about it. How brave he was. What provoked him to say so? Because an important concept you have to understand is that nature loves symmetry. Nature loves symmetry. Yes, nature loves symmetry. Radiation has dual nature. Matter also must have your dual nature. Dual nature must be there for matter. Matter also must exhibit. Matter also must exhibit dual nature. Who said? De Broglie said. If wave exhibits dual nature, matter must exhibit dual nature. What a beautiful concept. Now, he proposed this idea. E is equal to mc square. That's equal to hc by lambda. From here I can say this is equal to momentum p. Now I will just wipe out this part. And the wavelength of electromagnetic radiations is given by h divided by mc. This is the wavelength of electromagnetic radiation. Here c is the speed of light. Yes, c is the speed of light. Now de Broglie said, yes, if that's the case, now what for matter? He said, yes, lambda is equal to h divided by, if it is mc, okay, let it be mv. mv. Lambda is equal to h divided by mv. mv. Lambda is equal to h divided by mv according to Levi-Victor de Broglie. Lambda is equal to h by mv. He said so. Right. Or that is equal to h divided by p. H divided by p. Lambda is equal to h divided by mv or h divided by p. Right? Yes. So this is the wavelength of matter waves as proposed by the great Louis-Victor de Broglie. Lambda is equal to h divided by mv. That's the question. If that is the case, obviously there must be waves associated with you, with me, with things around us. That is, if you look at this this marker, if I am throwing this, okay, not that way. If this marker is moving with a speed of 10 meters per second, what is the wavelength associated with it? Now I'm just roughly taking the mass of this marker to be say 100 gram. And I'm saying it is moving the speed of 10 meters per second. In that situation, what is the wavelength? De Broglie wavelength of this marker. De Broglie wavelength of this marker. Lambda is equal to h divided by mv is the formula that we know. Now h is 6.6 into 10 to the power minus 34 divided by mass is 10 raised to minus 1 kilogram and v is 10. This much meter, right? So denominator will be cancelled here. So roughly I can say this is 6.6 into 10 to the power minus 34 meter. And if you write in angstrom, this will become 6.6 into 10 to the power minus 24 into 10 raised to minus 10 meter. This becomes an angstrom. So the de Broglie wavelength lambda is equal to 6.6 into 10 to the power minus 24 angstrom. Large wavelength or small wavelength, tell me. The wavelength of light is of the order of 10 to the power minus 7 meter. This is of the order of 10 to the power minus 33 meter. Much smaller than the wavelength of light. That is the reason why we say it's difficult to see the waves associated with the observe the waves associated with the matter, because it is too small a value to be observed. Now let us take for an electron roughly. An electron, say, let us consider an electron moving with the speed. The mass of the electron is 9.1 into 10 to the power minus 31 kilogram. Let us roughly say it is moving with the velocity of 10 raised to 5 meter per second. What is the de Broglie wavelength using that formula? Lambda is equal to h divided by mv. So h divided by 9.1 into 10 to the power minus 31 into 10 to the power 5. So I am saying this is 6.6 into 10 to the power minus 34. So this is 10 raised to minus 3. 10 raised to 5 goes to the numerator, it becomes 10 raised to minus 8. 6.6 divided by 9. So I will say this is about 0.6 into 10 to the power minus 8 meter. Or this is about 600 angstrom. Roughly I am saying, not absolute calculation. 600 angstrom. So what does that mean? Is it comparable to that of light or much smaller than light? I think it is comparable. It's comparable to what? So this is a rough wavelength and velocity I am saying. Just roughly we can say for microscopic particles the concept of matter waves becomes significant, whereas macroscopic particles the concept of matter waves is not that significant, let me tell you. I hope this idea is clear then. So waves are associated with the moving particles, and let me call that waves by name matter waves. What are matter waves? These are waves associated with The waves associated with the moving particles. So what are matter waves? Matter waves are waves associated with moving particles. This is an important point you have to understand. Regarding matter waves. Matter waves. What are matter waves or de Broglie waves? These are waves associated with the moving particles. If the velocity of the particle is zero, the wavelength becomes infinite. There is no significance for these matter waves, I tell you. So what are matter waves? These are waves associated with moving particles. And let me tell you an important waves property. Matter waves are probability waves. Matter waves are probability waves. What do you mean with that? They are probability waves means the waves will give the probability of finding the particle. The waves will give the probability of finding the particle. Probability, that means there is no assurance of finding, but associated with the waves, as it is here, associated with the wave particles, these waves exist. So associated with this wave, there should be this particle. The probability of finding the particles. These waves give the probability of finding the particle. These waves will clearly provide you the probability of finding the particles. And importantly, we have to understand that they do not. Unlike electromagnetic waves or mechanical waves, these waves do not transport energy and momentum. Matter waves do not transport energy and momentum. They are just the probability waves, and we can, from the idea of matter waves, we can find the we can obtain the probability of finding the particle. So these are some important points I want to highlight regarding matter waves. Now let us find out. So we have the formula. So we will find the expression for the wavelength of matter waves. What is the expression for kinetic energy? Kinetic energy of the particle is equal to p square by 2m, right? So that gives you p square is equal to 2m ke, or momentum p is equal to square root of 2m ke. Momentum p is equal to square root of 2m ke. That gives you the de Broglie wavelength lambda in terms of kinetic energy is equal to h divided by root of 2m ke. This is another expression for the de Broglie wavelength lambda. Lambda is equal to h divided by root of 2m ke. H divided by root of 2m ke. Now let's see, for a gas molecule, what is the de Broglie wavelength associated with a gas molecules? This will help you to solve the problems. Gas molecules. For a gas molecule, this is also applicable to a thermal neutron. Thermal neutron means these are neutrons found outside a nucleus, and these will behave like gas molecules. So for what I'm saying, for gas molecules, thermal neutron, we know that the kinetic energy is equal to 3 by 2 kBT. Kb is the Boltzmann constant, whose value is how much? 1.38 into 10 to the power minus 23 joule per Kelvin. Joule per Kelvin. So kinetic energy is equal to 3 by 2 kBT. In that situation, you will get the de Broglie wavelength lambda is equal to h divided by square root of 2k. 2k is equal to 3 kBT. So I can say 3 kBT. Sorry, 3m. This m is here. 3m kBT. I have substituted in this formula. So de Broglie wavelength associated with the gas molecules or thermal neutrons is lambda is equal to h divided by root of 3m kBt. H divided by root of 3m kBt. Now from this formula you have to understand an important point that the wavelength is independent of the charge on the particle. The wavelength of matter waves is independent of the nature of charge, I am saying. What do you mean with the nature of charge? Whether it is positive charge or negative charge, that doesn't matter when it comes to the de Broglie wavelength of matter waves, let me tell you. Okay, now why I said this, because I am going to take the next case. For a charged particle, accelerated from rest through a potential difference V. A charged particle accelerated from rest through a potential difference V. The work done is equal to QV, right? Which is equal to final kinetic energy minus initial kinetic energy. Final kinetic energy minus initial kinetic energy, because according to the work energy theorem, work done is equal to the change in kinetic energy. So final kinetic energy minus initial kinetic energy, which is 0. I can say that kinetic energy is equal to QV. So what will be lambda in this case is equal to h divided by root of 2mke. Let me tell you, in this case, this is the mass of a gas molecule or thermal neutron. I just forgot to say so. Root of 2mke. So this is the mass, in this formula, this is the mass of the charged particle. Now what I will do, I will substitute Ke with a QV. H divided by root of 2mqv, right? Lambda is equal to h divided by root of 2mqv, because I substituted for kinetic energy as qv. Now we will take the same for an electron. For an electron, lambda is equal to h divided by root of 2m ev. M is the mass of the electron, E is the charge of the electron. These are all constants. This can be written as, okay, so after simplifying all the constants, we can say 12.27 divided by root of V angstrom. 12.27 divided by root V angstrom, this is the de Broglie wavelength of an electron. Now for a proton, which is around 2000 times the mass of the electron, the de Broglie wavelength lambda is equal to 0.286 divided by root V angstrom. For a deuteron means something that has got twice the mass of proton but the same charge. The de Broglie wavelength lambda is equal to 0.202 divided by root V angstrom. These are helpful in solving problems. And for an alpha particle, what is alpha particle? The nucleus of helium atom. For an alpha particle, the de Broglie wavelength lambda is equal to 0.101 divided by root V angstrom. These are all in units, angstrom. Now we'll consider the explanation of uncertainty principle using the wave theory. According to Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, delta x into delta p should be greater than or equal to h divided by 4 pi. This is the knowledge that we have. Right? So, what is the meaning of this? This is the uncertainty in the determination of momentum. Delta x is the uncertainty in determining the position of the particle. So let's explain this idea using the Bohr quantization, the de Broglie hypothesis. Let us consider an electron with a constant momentum. What does that mean? Momentum of the electron is a constant. So lambda is equal to h divided by p is then a constant, right? So constant momentum means it has got a constant velocity. What we can say here, an electron moving with a constant velocity means the probability of moving that electron lies between minus infinity and plus infinity, right? So it has a constant momentum. The momentum remains constant means it can move over a region from minus infinity to plus infinity. That means, what about the matter waves associated with an electron with a constant momentum? So this length I will say the wavelength lambda, right? For an electron with a constant momentum means, I will say here delta p is equal to 0, right? Delta p is equal to 0. Now constant momentum means it can travel anywhere between minus infinity and plus infinity. That means the matter waves of such an electron lies between minus infinity and plus infinity. So as I told you, matter waves give the probability of finding the electron. Now where the probability lies? The wave extends from minus infinity to plus infinity. That means the probability of finding that electron lies between minus infinity and plus infinity, which implies delta x tends to infinity, right? The probability of finding the electron lies between minus infinity and plus infinity. So if you look on the wave, so I told you matter waves give the probability. So if you look between minus infinity and plus infinity, I can say electron is here. Where? In region between minus infinity and plus infinity. But in practical, what I will say is that, so actually the electron wave is not a single wave. Instead, it consists of a group of waves, I will say. Group of wavelengths will be there. In such a situation, what I will say is that there are a certain number of wavelengths around a central wavelength, I am saying. Certain number of wavelengths, the rough drawing. So in practical, I have to say that momentum is not a constant, which means delta p here is has a finite value. In such a situation, delta x also has a finite value. In such a situation, delta x has a finite value. So let me tell you, in that situation, the probability of finding position lies over this region, I have to say. So probability of finding the electron lies over this region because there is a central wavelength surrounded by waves of different wavelength. So in that situation we say electron is localized. The position of the electron is localized, so there is a finite probability of finding the electron. Now we will see a question. Consider that an electron, proton and alpha particle have same kinetic energy. Electron, proton and alpha particle have same kinetic energy. Question is, which has greater lambda? Which one of the three has greater lambda? That's the question to be answered. Electron, proton and alpha particle have same kinetic energy, which has greater de Broglie wavelength. How to solve this? In the formula, lambda is equal to h divided by root of 2mk. H is same, 2 is same, kinetic energy is same, which implies lambda proportional to 1 by m. 1 by root m. Now tell me, which has the one with the smallest mass will have the greatest de Broglie wavelength, right? One with the smallest mass has the greatest de Broglie wavelength. It's a pretty simple answer. I will say the mass of the electron is the least. So de Broglie wavelength should be greatest for the electron. de Broglie wavelength is greatest for the electron because the electron has the least mass. I hope this is clear to you. Example number 6 from the NCERT book. A particle is moving 3 times as fast as an electron. Then given lambda p by lambda a is equal to lambda p divided by lambda e is equal to 1.81 by 3 divided by 1000. You are asked to identify the particle and find its mass. What is given in our question? Let us see quickly. Given in our question is the velocity of the particle is equal to 3 times the velocity of the electron, right? And lambda p divided by lambda e is equal to 1.813 divided by 10,000. Now how to solve? We have the equation for lambda is equal to h divided by mv, right? That gives mass proportional to 1 by lambda v, right? So what next? From here we will get mass of the particle divided by mass of electron is equal to lambda of electron divided by lambda of particle into velocity of electron divided by velocity of particle. Now we will simplify this. This is lambda e by lambda. This is 10,000 divided by 1.813 into ratio velocity of electron divided by velocity of particle is 1 by 3. So this is 10,000 divided by 55. So this is about approximately 1,800, I think. 1,800. Approximate calculation is what I am doing. So which means mass of the particle is about 1,800 times the mass of the electron. That means the particle is either a proton or a neutron, right? The particle is either a neutron or a proton, I think. The particle is either a neutron or a proton. That is the idea regarding example number 11.6. Now we will discuss example number 11.7. I am not writing the question, it's a very simple question altogether. The question says likewise, what is the de Broglie wavelength associated with an electron accelerated through a potential difference of 100 volts? What is lambda associated with an electron accelerated through a potential difference of 100 volt? It's a very simple calculation, right? What is the formula we use? Lambda is equal to 12.27 divided by root V angstrom, right? This is the formula that we know. Now this calculation will give you 1.227 angstrom, right? Answer is 1.227 angstrom. Very simple calculation, I would say. So 1.227 angstrom. So that's the answer to example number 11.7. Okay, so I want you to solve example number 11.4 by yourself. Thank you.